eyes, that we may value and appreciate all people, recognizing what we have in common, rather than focusing on our differences or what they might be. Inspire us to distinguish between what is important and what is not, and guide us through the decisions that we make this evening, so that they may be more reflective of your will and not our own. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. I'll now call to order the Monday, August 19th, 2019 City Council meeting. Mrs. Donaldson, roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Present.
Graham.
Present.
Hensley.
Present.
Hussey.
Present.
Kimna.
Here.
Mahalovich.
Present.
Prather.
Here.
Schreiber.
Present.
Ward. Here. Wiseman.
Present. Item 3, I'll entertain an adoption of the agenda by adding item 4C, the Lincoln University USDA group from Jordan. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, miscellaneous agenda items. Item A, we would like to recognize Miss Shelby Welling for her recent crowning as Miss Missouri Preteen. So we would like to welcome you, Shelby, and you're welcome to come up to the podium.
Thank you guys for having me. So for you guys who don't know me, hi, I'm Shelby. I'm 13 years old and I'm attending 8th grade at Thomas Jefferson. So the pageant system that I do is called National American Miss, and I love it because it's a great opportunity to get to make friends, and I had to do an introduction, an interview, and a formal wear to win my title, and I'm very excited to go to nationals and definitely to go to Disney.
That is very exciting. So Nationals is coming up soon?
Yes, it's in November.
Wow, very exciting. Well, I can see why you won with your dynamic personality. And what was some of your favorite things that you...
I loved getting to just meet so many different girls from all over Missouri, and I loved getting to just get to make so many memories with so many girls. And my favorite part was definitely formal wear because I just got to have fun on stage.
I bet. How exciting. Well, your crown is so beautiful and
Thank
your
you.
sash, and we're honored to have you in this position from Jefferson City, and we'll be watching, and we're just very thankful that you came here tonight to share with us on the council. And does council have any specific questions tonight? Councilman Fitzwater?
I would just make a comment that I've known the family since I've been here. Her grandfather was one of my members at the Pharmacy Association in Stacy, but it was well-deserved honor. I kind of watched it through Facebook, and it was fun to watch, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce who you have here with you tonight from your family?
Yes, so that is my mom. Her name is Stacy, and then my grandma and grandpa are behind her.
Great. We're really glad to have you all here. Well, I know that you did reach out to my office, and I was very impressed because you said if there are any projects that I'm working on that you could be involved with, that you were very interested. So I'll mention that while we have council here as well, that if you think of things that Shelby could come with you or know what's going on, we'll feel free to reach out so that she can learn and grow what's going on here in the city of Jefferson. So we're very proud of you, and
Thank you.
Congratulations. You
Thank
make
you.
Jefferson City proud. So we wish you the best of luck, and like I said, you have a bright future. No matter what happens, we're just thrilled that you're here with this recognition, and we think that's just a really huge accomplishment and very proud of you.
Thank you.
So if you'd like to come forward, we'd love to get a picture with City Council and you. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, can I please ask that the grandparents come forward too?
Absolutely,
Because I know
yes.
they're very proud.
Please do, yes. We'd love
Please
to have
come
the
forward.
family up here as well. Thank you. We have to get a selfie because it was City Hall Selfie Day last week and we didn't do it, so y'all are going to be in the selfie. And you might not have heard that you got Miss Personality, so congratulations.
Okay, thank you all again. Thank you.
All right, the next group we have, very exciting, we're going to present a proclamation to the Lincoln University Women's Outdoor Track and Field Team, and we have them here in attendance tonight, so we would like to welcome all of you to the podium tonight while we do this special recognition.
Along with their coach. Come on up, Coach.
Yes. And we're very, very happy to have you all here, and while you're coming forward, I'm going to read this special proclamation. It reads, whereas the Lincoln University Women's Outdoor Track and Field Team won the 2019 NCAA Division II Championship this past May, and whereas the Blue Tigers won national titles in 5 events, including the 100-meter, 200-meter, 400-meter, and the 4x100-meter and 4x400-meter relays, and whereas by virtue of both winning the 2019 national championship and accumulating a team grade point average higher than 3.0, the 2019 Lincoln University Women's Outdoor Track and Field Program was named the National Scholar Team of the Year by the United States Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association. Wow, congratulations. And whereas this was the 9th NCAA Division II championship won by Lincoln University in the sport of women's outdoor track and field, and the 14th total national title claimed by the Blue Tigers since 2003, and whereas Victor Thomas, the head coach of the Lincoln University women's track and field team, was named the National Outdoor Coach of the Year by the United States Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association after coaching his 14th national championship winning team. Therefore, I, Carrie Turgeon, Mayor of the City of Jefferson, along with the City Council, congratulate the Lincoln University Women's Outdoor Track and Field Team on their victory of winning the 2019 NCAA Division II Championship. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of great accomplishment there to recognize, and we're very happy for all of you, and you make Jefferson City proud, and we're just happy for your accomplishments, and while doing it, excelling at being student athletes and having that great GPA and having a pretty awesome coach as an example, too. So if you'd like to each come to the podium and say into the mic your name and maybe the event that you ran, and where you're from.
Hello, my name is Christine Moss. I'm from Jamaica. I run the 200, 400, 4x1, and 4x4.
Wow.
Hello everyone, my name is Renee Medley and I run the 4x1, 4x4, 100 and the 200 meter, and I am from Jamaica.
Great.
Hi, my name is Dylan Kaur. I run the 400 and the 4x4 and I'm from New York.
Hello, my name is Kisian Brown. I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. My events are the 400 meter hurdles, the 400 and the 4x400 meters.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rashida Blake. I'm from Montego Bay, Jamaica, and my event is Triple Jump.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne Vandenberg. I'm from Guyana, and my events are the 1, 2, and 4x1.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renee Ambersley, and I run the 400, 4x1, and 4x4.
Good evening. My name is Malali Isiafa Bangora. I'm from New York, and I run the 1, 2, and 4x1.
Hello, my name is Victor Papa Thomas. I run everything. I'd like to thank you guys for inviting us here. I know these girls appreciate it a lot because when they came back, the seniors asked, what's happening? I have to tell them that because of the tornado? Yeah, they were on low profile. So we appreciate this a lot. And with health and strength, hopefully, I don't know, it's getting tougher and tougher each year because I'm getting old. 5 years ago, I did not used to have this. It's now white. So hopefully, with a little more strength, a little more health, a little more luck, because this is our luck, we can win maybe 1 or 2 more during my lifetime. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you and congratulations. And we would love to get a picture. If you all, are there any questions of council or comments?
No, I just want to say, I know we said it earlier that the things that they do on the track, but what I'm most impressed about is the way they carry themselves on campus and then what they do in the classroom. Certainly they set examples for others to look up to as well. So, and to Coach Thomas, once again, congratulations. This is ring number how many?
14.
14. I mean, you got the 10 fingers, and now you starting on your toes. Right. So, and hopefully, I know that we've talked about this in the past. That one day soon, the people here in the city of Jefferson, as well as Mid-Missouri, will get a chance to see our young ladies do a competition here in Jefferson City. So I am looking forward to that day. And if we do announce something like that, I'm sure that we can get the support from the community, because I do understand that it takes a lot to put on a track meet. And I think that we've heard so much about our track team that I'm sure that people in the community will help to volunteer and whatever we need to do to make it a reality to see our young ladies run a competition here on our campus in the city of Jefferson. So I look forward to that. And once again, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all. And please come forward. We'd love to get a picture with council. And again, we thank you, and you make us all very proud.
And I do want to recognize the athletic director, Coach Mosley, is here as well, too. So if Coach Mosley can come up and take a picture. He's got some rings. Also, our president of Lincoln University is here. So if she could come up and please take a photo as well.
Well, we have to get a city hall selfie. So stay up here. I think I can get everybody. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, we didn't do the L. I'm gonna get one over the L. All right, ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Okay. Congratulations. Yes.
Probably just for your, make sure you get.
Thank you.
And now we're excited to have another recognition for Lincoln University. Item C, the Lincoln University USDA group from Jordan. So we would like to welcome the group forward. And like Carlos mentioned, we also have our president of Lincoln University, Gerald, here. So if you would all like to come forward, we would love to recognize you for being in Jefferson City and tell us a little about, maybe Carlos will do a quick introduction, but you're all welcome to come up to the podium.
So Dr. DeWeek serves as our Dean of Agriculture on our campus. He just had the interim tag taken off his name a couple of months ago, and he is doing a fantastic job with the Department of Agriculture. So also in the audience, I must recognize our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Alfonso Sanders. Dr. Sanders, will you please stand, please? This is Dr. Sanders. he is our new Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost. He is coming to us from Mississippi Valley State University, and certainly we're happy that he is here in Jefferson City with us. But this time I'm going to turn the mic over to Dr. L. DeWeek to talk about our guest that we have with us. And I had the opportunity, and Madam President did earlier in the week, to meet these individuals, and so we're glad that you're here in the city of Jefferson. So, Dr. DeWeek, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Graham, and thank you, Mayor, and all the guests here. We are very honored, really, at Lincoln University to be awarded a competitive grant, and this competitive grant is nationwide. And the USDA has chosen Lincoln University and College of Agriculture to host this group from the Kingdom of Jordan. And this award came through the Foreign Agriculture Services. And the program is for the fellows who were selected by USDA from the Ministry of Agriculture at the Kingdom of Jordan, for them to come here at Lincoln University and learn get extensive education on extension and what we do in extension for 2 weeks. So they'll be joining us for 2 weeks. They finished their first week, and I can tell you it's intense, very intense program. They are learning quite a bit. They are enjoying what they have seen. They have seen the hospitality of Missourians, and they are honored to be here and honored to be our guest. So we have 8 fellows, again, from the Ministry of Agriculture in Kingdom of Jordan, and we have Dr. Maria Mufti, and she is the Assistant General Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture. And we have Zaid Ulakat, Nasser, and Wajdi Khayshat, Abdel Nasser, and Amir. So they will be here with us for another week. So again, they're touring different, also visiting with farmers in Missouri. So, but again, we are very honored to have this program to be selected by USDA to be executed at Lincoln University. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. It's an honor to have you visit our city council meeting, and we're very proud of this program at Lincoln University, so thank you for highlighting that for us this evening. Are there any questions of council or comments? Okay, well, we're happy to welcome you here, and if you would all like to come forward, we'd love to get a picture with all of you as well at our city council meeting, and we'd like to also welcome President Gerald and Vice President Alphonse to come up as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go for it. I can go over your head. Are you good? Go ahead.
Why don't you look at this one first? Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
And then we are doing this thing at City Hall selfie celebration. Like this? Perfect. You can do the L for Lincoln. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. All be Thank you again. It's wonderful to have great representation from Lincoln. And of course, while Coach Mosley is here with the group, I do want to mention that if you're not a member of the Blue Tiger Athletic Club, you can join. It's only $100 a year. You can go to the tailgates and have fun and food and fellowship with all kinds of Lincoln Blue Tiger fans. So if you want to join, you just see Coach, unless you're already a member, but it's really worth becoming a member and supporting Lincoln. So be sure to be a Blue Tiger Athletic Club member if you're not already. Thank you all for being here. Item 5, public hearings. We have item A, the Bill 2019-2020. I'm sorry, 2019-36. Let's try that.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri adopting a budget and personnel classification plan for the city for the period of November 1, 2019 to October 31, 2020, and appropriating money in the city treasury to pay the cost of operating the city government during that period in accordance with the budget.
Mrs. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The proposed appropriation for this budget ordinance from the general fund is projected to be $32,906,901.33, with additional funding for other funds and for capital projects, bringing the total City of Jefferson budget for fiscal year 2020 to $65,147,788.60. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of council? And at this time, we'll, I'm sorry, Mr.
Should I move to put that on the informal?
Are we going to open the public hearing?
We need to open the public hearing first.
Okay.
But after the public hearing, would that go to the informal then?
First.
Yes.
No, second.
Okay. And that's because we're still having our ongoing budget meeting. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing portion of the bill. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on Bill 2019-36? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. And Councilman Mahalovich.
I move to put that on the informal pending our deliberations on the budget over the next few weeks.
Okay. And is there a second? No, we don't even need it. Just any objections to putting it on the informal? Okay, so that is on the informal. Item B, 2019-37.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri providing for the levy of city taxes and establishing the rate of taxation for the City of Jefferson, Missouri for the year 2019.
Mrs. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the state statute requires that the cities establish their property tax rates based on an annual basis. The proposed 2019-2020 budget has been prepared based on the property tax rate for the general fund at .4600 cents and the fireman's retirement rate at .0961 cents. And this is the same as the current year's tax levy. No changes.
Any questions? Okay, at this time we'll open the public hearing portion. Is there anyone that would like to speak on Bill 2019-37?
I do have a quick question.
Yes, if you'd like to.
Will there be any increases from the previous year?
The question is, would there be any increases? And that answer would be no, it would be the same.
Same
correct?
tax levy.
Same tax levy.
Thanks.
Yeah, no increase. Okay, so anyone else that would like to speak on that bill? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion and take up Bill 2019-37.
Go
ahead.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri providing for the levy of city taxes and establishing the rate of taxation for the City of Jefferson, Missouri for the year 2019.
Any further council questions or deliberation? Roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward. Wiseman.
Aye.
Bill passes. Item 6, appointments by the mayor. We have appointment for Historic Preservation Commission, and Mrs. Strope will give us that information.
Thank you, Mayor. We just have one recommendation for an appointment. As you mentioned, that's to the Historic Preservation Commission, and that's Michael Berenson for a full term.
Any questions or council discussion or a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, presentations from staff, consultants, and invited guests. I'd like to invite to the podium Mr. David Bandre to give us an update on 202 East High. Welcome.
Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Dave Bandre. My office is at 227 Madison Street here in Jeff City. I represent Reuben and Carol Weberg, who are the owners of 202 East High Street. For edification, and I know you all know this, my client's building is not the one that is collapsing. That is 200 East High Street. 202 East High Street is the building immediately next door that shares a common wall with the structure that is collapsing. We appreciate the patience of the council, and I know it's very frustrating with regards to what's going on there, and the truth of the matter is that my clients and myself are the ones who are largely holding up this project. The reason for that is that my clients are doing everything within their power to save their building. We are in the hands, of course, of insurance companies, which is a reality with which we have to deal. I recognize that is not the most fabulous position to be in, but we are there. We have several engineers who have agreed that my client's building is infinitely worth saving. We initially had some difficulty with the coverage issue, whether a partial collapse of a shared wall was going to be a covered event. I believe we have determined at this point that it is. And we have received several bids on the cost of tearing down, well, in no particular order, in tearing down both buildings, in tearing down 200 and preserving 202, in tearing down 200 and the wall to 202 and building a new one, and in fact several other options as well. Those numbers just came in on Thursday of last week. So those have been submitted now to the insurance carriers and to the owners of 200 East High. Very briefly, and if you guys have questions, I will do my best to answer them within the confines of attorney-client privilege with what I can tell you. But again, the goal of my clients is to keep their building. This is my client's retirement plan. That's why they bought this building. They've had it rented out continuously since they purchased it. It's a beautiful building. Regrettably, when they built things at that time, there literally was a wall on the north and the south of it, and they shared those walls. It's not how we would build things today, but that's a reality of construction in 1905. And so we're somewhat stuck with it at this point. For what it's worth, and it's probably not worth much to you guys at this point, I do think that things will move quite a bit quicker now that we have the insurance issue resolved. I am happy to answer any questions that there are. I think we all acknowledge that 200 is going to have to go. 200 could be torn down tomorrow. The issue is the common wall. My clients are in a position that if they can come up with the insurance money to build it, they're going to rebuild that common wall and save what is a historic building in downtown Jefferson City. What then happens to the lot where 200 is, that is anybody's guess.
Well, Mr. Bandry, we appreciate that update. I know it's certainly been a question that we hear quite often, and people ask about why is it taking so long, and I think you've given us some, a picture of why with all the dynamic of what's going on and all the different options, and it certainly is complex, as you've outlined, and if taking the amount of time to work through those options could possibly preserve one of the buildings, then we appreciate the extra thought and work that's going into hopefully being able to preserve, because nobody wants to see any of the buildings come down, much less, more than what would have to come down.
I appreciate that, Madam Mayor, and I would add to that, and I know this is not what you guys want to hear, but there is a common wall, of course, on the other side of 202 as well. And so as we've now reached the stage in this where we're at, we're now having to look at the impact on 204 East High with what happens to 202. So needless to say, if we can save 202, that definitionally will save 204 as well. We don't know where we're at on 204. Love to be able to tell you. From what everybody says, that building is built like a tank and we won't have any problems with it, but I'm not an engineer.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're getting some of the bids back and some information from the insurance companies. It's taken a while, because I know certainly our goal is to get it resolved as quickly as possible, considering the circumstances that surround it. Are there questions of council? Councilman Graham?
So, thank you for being here. So, are you saying that 202 is structurally sound?
Let me answer that this way, sir. We have the opinion of one engineer that says it is not, and I have the opinions of 3 engineers who says that it is. The engineer who says it's not is yours. And so they carry quite a bit of weight. I assume engineers are like plumbers and everything else, that there's going to be disagreements on how these things happen. But yes, sir, it is my client's belief that 202 is structurally sound today, and with work on that common wall can be structurally sound for many, many years.
So 3 people that you guys have contracted, I assume.
2 that I've contracted, and 1 that the city has contracted, have said it's secure. 1 other that the city has contracted with has said it's not.
So I don't know if this requires our person from the city getting in the room again with these individuals, because I'm very concerned of how long this, I know it's a process, and I might be just one person speaking, but from what I've heard from some of my constituents is that it is an eyesore. Something needs to happen. It's been drug on for too long. So I don't know what else needs to happen, but somebody needs to get in the room and make some type of sound decision so we can move forward, because that is an eyesore. Something needs to happen. And that's all I'm saying.
Are there other council discussion or comments, or would staff want to respond to that within the realm of what we can respond to, knowing that there is the legal issue?
And I would just say, Councilman Graham, I appreciate your position on it, and you're right. And all I can do is assure you that not a day goes by that we're not working on this.
So just to add to the conversation, so when the circuit court issued its decision that the city's dangerous building process was appropriately followed, and that there was substantial and competent evidence that the building is dangerous, which was the final ruling of the circuit court, the city could have acted very shortly after to take down that building. We've been in contact with Mr. Bandre and the attorneys for Niter Properties LLC, and have found it fit to allow them the space to work with their insurance company and their engineers to resolve the situation such that 202 could be saved. The city's solution to this, if we were to act fast back in July, would be to take both buildings down. And so I think there's an appreciation that if 202 can be saved, that the extra time that it would take to do so would be worth it. And I agree, I'm as frustrated with this as anyone. But once again, from Mr. Bandre has told us and the attorneys for the Niter property, we believe that there is a solution that would allow 202 to stay, and so we have pursued that and allowed the parties to pursue that. It's been a tough decision to do so, but we still think that's the right thing to do. Eventually, that may not be the answer, but hopefully we can get there before that comes up.
Councilman Kemna, or did you have any further, Grant? Okay, thank you. Councilman Kemna?
Yeah, and I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, because I know every day I have a front row seat of this. But I know you said that right now with the insurance quotes coming in, I know it's kind of a gray area, but do you have an estimated time frame on when you feel like a decision will be made on 202?
I don't want to speak, Councilman Kemna, for the insurance company. I can tell you that I forwarded the cost estimates we received from our engineers to the insurance company the day we received them, which was Thursday of last week, and I apologize, I don't know what that date was. I can tell you they are in their hands, and I can tell you that when I sent them, I told them that it was an exigent situation and I needed some sort of a ruling as quickly as I could get one. Beyond that, and I'm not trying to dodge your question, that's probably the best I can tell you.
Mr. Sanders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you for your involvement in this. I've got a couple of statements. One, I believe the
consulting engineers that did the work for the Webergs probably spent a lot more time studying the situation and probably a lot more expense. And then also staff would like clear direction on which way to proceed with this if there is a change from how we are moving forward now.
Thank you. So it sounds like the direction staff is going is allowing the parties involved to pursue the possibility of saving 202. And unless council gives any other direction otherwise, that is the plan. And if there's anything that the city can do or needs to be doing that we aren't already, I know that the city has been working diligently. I think Mr. Mullman summarized it very well, that what the options are, and that we, the other piece of it was the hearing process and the other things that have been done up to this point that have all been done. Was there any other council comments, questions?
Well, and if you guys come up with more questions, give me a call. Your staff's been excellent to work with. I get that it's frustrating. I get it.
Mr. Kroll?
And so we do appreciate, again, all the efforts, but it is an important and an imminent situation that I know you're working on, but it also doesn't preclude our staff from being able to make a decision to go ahead and do the demolition if that gets to that point, which we hope it doesn't, but we certainly appreciate your efforts to get it resolved quickly. And if there is something that we can do to assist, please let me know.
I would just ask that if the board reaches the stage that they decide with demolition, it is possible to tear down 200 and leave 202 and the common wall standing. Now, it is much more expensive to tear down 200 because, solely 200, because in doing so, one would have to protect the common wall. All I would ask is that that's something, Mr. Crowell, that you and your staff would at least look at as an option, understanding it's going to be more expensive to Mr. Neidert and his property, but would potentially save my clients. I know that's a very in-depth decision. I'm obviously not, wanting that done. But that is something we'd appreciate it if you at least look at. And if you reach that step and would like to discuss that in further detail, please give me a call. I will make myself available. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity to speak, unless there was anything else.
Thank you. We'll continue whatever, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was wondering if it would be possible to have some sort of time frame or update process to city staff so we know what's going on and we can inform the council?
I would say tell me what time frame you want an update within, and I'll get it to you. I mean, if you want something on every Friday, whatever you want, really, I'm happy to provide it. We've all got other things to do, but but I would be happy to try to keep you in the loop.
Say if you and Sunny could connect on that piece and then keep council informed, but also whatever the city can do to put pressure on with what you're working with to let your client know. I know you're giving them that word, but they also need to hear it from the city, and that we have this meeting, and that whatever pressure the city can apply for them to make those decisions as quickly as possible, that we would look to our staff as well to get that to you. Yeah, so before we meet in 2 weeks, so we could have an update for council before that.
Sure, he and I will talk a little later this week, and then we'll be providing you updates then as we discuss.
And then it helps to get that out in the public too, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and next we have item B, the concrete street repair update. Mr. Marash.
Thank you. And our Public Works and Planning Committee heard this topic last week, and they asked us to bring it to the council and just give a short presentation that we gave last week. And basically, one reason for that is I'm sure many of you hear, hey, I have the street, it's bumpy, it's got cracks in it, it's unsightly, that kind of thing. And so I think the group last week thought maybe this would be good for the entire council to see. But basically, as of late, we've started trying to address some of our concrete street joints in a different manner. And there it is. So, I'm sure many of you, and you can still find these all over the place, where you have a concrete street, the joints begin to deteriorate, and we'll go out and we'll put asphalt in, trying to keep the water out of them. You know, advantage is it's fairly inexpensive, it's very quick, but it's pretty unsightly and kind of a short-term way to address this. And this is New Bedford Court, where we tried a little different method. This is a before picture, but you can see every joint out there is spalled and deteriorating. Some of that's from chemicals in the wintertime. Then also in this particular neighborhood, we have a sprinkler system, probably a lot of fertilizers in that going into this same system. So we tend to find that issue with a lot of sprinkler systems and well-maintained lawns like this. But everybody likes their lawn, and I can understand that. In the past, the city has undertaken some overlay of concrete streets. This is an example of one in Sylvan Hills, and so often here we'd like an overlay of our concrete street. We haven't done this in recent years. A couple reasons why. As you can see in that picture, just after a couple years typically of an overlay, all the joints in the concrete street come back to the surface. We have to be right on top of them, sealing those, keeping the water out. Any water gets in there, you have an almost immediate pothole the next year. So we're constantly revisiting those. Then the asphalt overlay doesn't last nearly as long either. We have to go back and, once we start this process, continually overlay the street in a much shorter time frame than, say, an asphalt street would need an overlay. So that's probably not sustainable. That method to work on these, it's something we can do that we wouldn't have to rebuild the entire street, but still very costly to the city. So looking for a more sustainable method, something that MoDOT has started doing a lot. Whoops, did I go backwards? Oops. Somebody else is hitting that, not me. Keep going, one more. Something MoDOT has really started using as of late, and it's starting to catch on, and so we're trying to do it as well. We did on New Bedford Court. Basically, go back out with a small miller, mill out the joint, get down to sound concrete, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches at the most, maybe 18 inches or so wide, and we clean out those joints. So this is already, the sprinkler system has filled them up with water when we took this picture, but got to let those dry out, clean them out really well, and come back with a patch material that more or less resembles the original concrete. So it's more sightly, and I think the residents are more accepting of the look when we're finished. I'll let somebody go to the next slide. So here's our crews out working on it. This was the first project we did, is out on New Bedford Court, and we learned a few things. It takes, number one, it takes a lot of manpower to do this process. Not much material, but a lot of manpower. So we have a lot of people on the job. These are all city employees, and it's much like doing a bridge deck patch. So the same, similar material. And so also about how we go about it, we might probably modify our process a little bit. Probably need a different milling head than we have available right now, but we're working on obtaining that, and we have a few other streets we'd like to try this in. Hopefully yet this year. Our goal is to work in over in Covington Gardens on a few streets, some streets off Monticello we're going to try to work on. Scenic Drive is another area we're targeting, and then Whitney Woods area as well. So kind of scattered about the cities. If you were to drive out there, you would see some concrete streets that need some attention. Now this is just for joints, and we'd still be doing panel replacements and when the whole panel is in disrepair. But this is a way we can address the joints in these streets. And I think go to the next slide. That's kind of the finished product. It was real cleaned up, but we went back and saw the joint back where the original joint was. Try to control the cracking, but basically it resembles the previous street. Obviously still patched, but much more sustainable method for us to try to address some of these streets. So again, be happy to answer any questions, but if folks call you about their concrete streets, we're really trying to come up with a method to keep them concrete and patch those back.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Marash? Councilman Hesse?
Thanks, Matt, for the presentation. I guess a question that often gets asked every year when we look over the overlay list and the allocation of dollars and we don't see streets. So is the funding for this joint spall treatment, does that come out of that overlay budget, or is there a separate fund that we're pulling, or a separate line item?
Good question. This would come out of our operation budget and street department.
And do you anticipate this will be a city staff-driven in terms of?
Typically, yeah, we think we would have the city staff work on it. Now, we could do a project where if we had a big area, we may have to call in a contractor. I know contractors do it. There's local contractors that do this for MoDOT. So it's still, we have to look at the workload. Same guys doing this are probably working on stormwater and other street issues. And so we kind of have to look at our workload and assign the dollars accordingly.
So I guess one recommendation might be, that overlay list, we usually list, I think, 2 years out, or do we even go 3 years out?
Yeah, we try to go three.
Three. Maybe some consideration given to an additional list that might identify these types of streets that would receive this treatment, and starting to think through. I know, as you know, it's just a point of conversation. Why isn't the street on there? And then we continually have, well, it's
make adjustments.
Concrete, it's not asphalt overlay. And so there's questions about why hasn't New Bedford Court been tackled yet? Well, it wouldn't be on that overlay list because it's not asphalt. But maybe if we had some sort of running street list to say these are the ones that we want to tackle with this particular treatment, could be helpful for the council and the citizens to sort of know where their street might be on the list.
Yeah, certainly a good suggestion, and we'll try to accommodate that. And also, I'd point out we also have a company working with us to evaluate all our streets, and kind of on an analytical basis, not just kind of a observation basis. So it's something MoDOT does on their streets as well. So we're using that technology, and we will hopefully have that finished up by this winter, and then we can get an idea of what condition our streets are in overall, and maybe develop a budget. If we are going to get everything to good condition in the next so many years, this is the kind of dollars that would take. So that's kind of the goal in that study, and we hope to finish that up yet this year.
Councilman Mahalovich?
I don't want to go down this path too far, but I do appreciate this. This may have hope for St. Mary's Boulevard because much of that is concrete, and that's been on the overlay district for overlay plan for a few years back, and I've been vocal about needing some attention in some sections of that. So
yeah, now this isn't the silver bullet for everything. I want to point that out, but it is a new method we're starting to try to utilize a little more often. So.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is item 8, announcements by mayor, council, and staff. So we have our committee meetings at jeffersoncitymmo.gov. Are there any committee announcements? Councilman Mahalovich?
Budget this Thursday, 5:30. We'll start on the parking lot most likely, and we will need, if you're not going to be able to be in attendance, let us know, please.
Okay. Any other announcements for committees? Councilman Graham?
If you have anything that would like to go on a public safety meeting, committee meeting that's scheduled for the 29th of this month, please email Kay so that we can put that on the agenda for our meeting on the 29th.
Okay. Councilman Hussey?
Hey, Councilman Mahalovich, for the sake of those in attendance and watching, could you define quickly what the parking lot is? Not an actual physical parking lot, but what we mean by that?
Yes, maybe that does need some explanation.
You mean we're not going to meet out in the parking lot?
Show up Thursday to find out, and tune in to JCTV. No, the council will decide what things that wasn't included in the budget as proposed, and propose them in a placeholder, and that placeholder is called a parking lot. And then the council is directed by our own internal working rules to find an offset, at least at the next meeting, for what they place on if it's an expense item. So the fun begins Thursday. Stay tuned.
Great. Other committee reports or meetings? Okay. Item B, the Missouri 2021 Bicentennial Moment. I'll remind everyone that the bicentennial will be in August of 21. So here we are in August now, so we can be thinking that the 2-year countdown, and even though that sounds quick, it will be here before we know it. So we are working on planning, and we're encouraging every county in the state of Missouri to have an event. Item C, the City of Jefferson United Way Pace Setter Campaign. And I think we might have a slide to describe this. Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, we do. So this is our very own councilman, David Kemna. David, maybe you could explain this.
So a lot of corporations around the city will kind of join forces to raise funds for the United Way and Pennsylvania. where I work, and a few others kind of have a company campaign. So this is actually a junk booth. So we were encouraged to dress up and but I didn't support the spin scooter, so that was helpful. But Central Bank, City of Jefferson, many others will try to raise funds in that way. And then I think the next month is kind of a citywide campaign. So they're also continuing to try to raise their biological bill as well as
Well, we appreciate your involvement, and thank you for representing with the spin scooter, but there might be an ordinance about the gold pants and a spin scooter at the same time. I don't know. You might have to check that next time. But good for you for getting out there and raising money for United Way. So any questions for Councilman David at the moment? Okay. So at your place, you'll see that we do have a pledge card for all of our council members, and we always strive for 100% participation. You might remember a few years ago when Mr. Kroll came in with his monster outfit, if we all had 100%, right? Wasn't it? So if we do 100%, Steve's going to do something. I don't know what. But he'll do something.
That same thing Dave was talking about. I'm not so sure that's it.
We'll figure that out. Maybe we'll get it'll involve a spin scooter, maybe.
It'll involve
So we'd like to get 100% participation, so you can fill this out. So the City of Jefferson campaign is almost finished. By this week, we really need these cards back from City Council. You can do a payroll deduction or check or cash. So Jennifer in my office will collect these, so if you want to just fill them out tonight. I happen to bring a check, so some of you already I know are giving, and I would like to say thank you. If you're not, then please consider dropping it off tonight, or at least by Wednesday. She really would like to have these back. So, and I won't make you put on that whatever that is. So we won't make that happen. Councilman Graham?
Madam Mayor, Councilman Hensley said that we all give, he would shave his head, so I'm gonna make sure I give so I can cut that pretty hair off his head.
Whoa, it's getting, I don't know, maybe that orange, maybe David will lend you that orange thing with the orange mustache too. Okay, so it's getting way out of hand. Okay, so on that note, everybody please give to the United Way in your own way. So I'll give my announcements now. I wanted to mention that I am going to be presenting on behalf of Jefferson City a plaque tonight to the City of Columbia. I'll be leaving here and heading straight to their City Council meeting. They tend to go a little later than ours. So this reads, "The City of Columbia, in recognition of outstanding service to the people of Jefferson City impacted by the tornado and flooding in May 2019," and this is presented on behalf of the Mayor and City Council, and it says #JC Strong, because we know Columbia had a significant effort for our cleanup, and I think one of the first things I noticed when I came to the Emergency Operations Center that night was a room filled with Columbia police officers, all dressed in uniform and ready to go, and also Mayor Brian Treese reaching out, and they held fundraisers in Columbia, and he made sure and include us and was always ready to lend a helping hand. So we appreciate Columbia's efforts, so I'll be presenting that this evening. Also, while I'm in Columbia, I'll be going to the honor flight, which will return this evening. So if anybody's interested in going to that, I don't know if anyone's already planning on it, but please come up this evening if you're interested. They'll be heading home, and we always like to welcome them back. I don't have an exact time. Usually it's around 10:30, 10:30. And then the hotel that they come to is the Courtyard by Marriott, which is 3301 Lamone Industrial Boulevard. So, or if anybody wants to drive up with me, you're certainly welcome to. But that is tonight, and I think it'll probably be around 10-ish. So we look forward to welcoming the honor flight home tonight in Columbia. Also this Saturday is Guns and Hoses. Happy to report it's sold out. So you snooze, you lose. If you didn't get your ticket, they didn't anticipate they would be selling over 400 and some tickets to this hockey between the Jeff City Police and Fire. It benefits Safety Net. So I get to toss the first puck and kick that off on Saturday night. But they are still taking some drop it, toss it, whatever they do with pucks. I don't know. So I'll be doing that. You didn't know either, Carlos. I know you didn't. So they are still taking donations for Safety Net, so whether you can go or not, please consider giving, or you can come to the Ice Arena that night and purchase a T-shirt to raise funds for that. And I'm sure they would still take sponsorships. Each player has to be sponsored, so consider that. Also on Saturday, we had the concert Inside the Walls, which was actually the concert inside the fairgrounds because it was going to be at the penitentiary, but we all know that was moved to the fairgrounds. And that was a revival. They called it Redemption Inside the Walls, and they had the Christian rock group, the Newsboys. Y'all remember because we sang them at the last meeting. So they gave out awards. The News Tribune had a contest, and people could submit their heroes of the event. And each of the heroes received this piece of wood that was from a tree that had fallen during the storm. So they gave these really neat awards out. It's my understanding Councilman Hussey made a nomination. I believe Cassandra Huckabee was one that you nominated. And it was neat to hear her story. Appreciate you taking the time to do that, along with all the people who were nominated. And I know there's many, many heroes of the storm, but it was neat that they actually turned the concert into more of a recognition. They called it Stronger After the Storm. So we got one here on behalf of the mayor and the city, so I'll put that in the mayor's office. So that was quite an honor. And we also called it Newsboys Day. And then also Baby Leah Hargrove Day on Saturday, because baby Leah was born with some challenges, and so she's a year old, and they held the concert as a fundraiser. They had some auction items to raise money for her care, and she was there, and the Newsboys got to meet baby Leah, and we're very inspired by all of those stories. But I do want to mention that night at the concert that they did call on stage, if anybody knew the rap portion of Jesus Freak. Does anybody know that one? Not in this room. So one of their very famous songs, Jesus Freak. So who raises their hand? It wasn't me. I know you're thinking. So our own Gordon Canachel went on stage, and the Newsboys say, "So where do you work, Gordon?" He says, "For the city of Jefferson." And he proceeded to do that rap portion perfectly, and I wondered if he'd be at work today or if he would have just gone on the road with the Newsboys. So when you see Gordon, his new nickname is Gordy, so the lead singer of the Newsboys called him Gordy, 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 so that's what he was called now. So we're very impressed. So the city was kind of well represented, but I had to call Gordon out. He has no idea that I called him out, but next time you see Gordon, tell Gordy that he did a great job on stage. But it was a great weekend with all those events going on. And then I did touch on City Hall Selfie Day, which was last week, so that's why I took those selfies tonight, so I can get those submitted, because I don't want to embarrass the most selfied mayor in history that didn't get a City Hall Selfie Day. So I think we will be fine now. So with that, are there any, I have Mr. Sanders is going to make an announcement, but any council announcements first? Okay, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you're aware, we're working on the update of our comprehensive plan, and we're in our public involvement portion of it, our first public involvement section of it. And we have 3 activities coming up. One here on August 29th, a community workshop. We have another community workshop in mid-September, and we're having a land use visioning mapping exercise in October. So if anybody's interested in providing input to the document that helps guide development and activities in the city, you can go to www.jeffersoncitymode.gov, and it's /comp plan update, and you can find out everything you need to know about those meetings. And we encourage everybody that lives, works, or plays in Jefferson City to attend and tell us what you think and how you'd like the city to be in the next upcoming years. Thank you.
Great. Any questions? All right. Thanks for the update. Item 9, Lincoln University student update. Ms. Carolyn Wanjaro.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council as a whole. On behalf of Lincoln University, I would like to thank each and everyone who came out to Casino Night. Unfortunately, I was not able to be present. However, I saw all the pictures Madam Mayor took with all the attendees. And as you can see from the presentation from the women's track and field team, the funds that are provided on nights like those, they go to support what they do. It's not an easy task to have a track team, to have them travel all around the country when they have track meets. However, when you show up and you show out and you show your love and support for the Blue Tiger family, that is what the funds go towards. School started officially today, fall 2019. Well, the 2019-2020 school year started today. It's exciting because I graduate in May. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm excited as well. And I look forward to having an amazing grade year. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Welcome back to school. Glad, good luck with your school year. Thank you. Item 10, presentations from the gallery on specific bills or resolutions, and these are limited to 5 minutes from the podium. If we will start with, we have several people, I think 6 are signed up this evening. Mr. Gary Strump? Stroop? Yes. Okay, welcome. So it's S-T-R... O-U-P. Okay, thank you, Mr. Stroop.
Yes, and I have a handout for the council if it would be a...
Sure, if you would like to give that to Ms. Donaldson, we can pass it around. Or Sonny could pass it. Thank you.
I would like to address the pending requirement of private property owners maintaining sidewalks to new specifications concerning variances in height and overall
Would you like to move the
condition.
microphone just that way we can all, thank you so much.
Do I need to repeat that?
I think you're good.
Okay. Myself and my wife have been in contact with a previous council member concerning the sidewalks and curbing and guttering in our neighborhood numerous times. I've also had conversations with the city tree manager concerning the drive that connects Oakwood Drive to McClung Park with no action being taken by either. And I'm referencing the photographs that are attached with that handout. Note that the sidewalk, city curb, and the park drive are not ADA compliant, and as an additional safety code violation being the lack of railing along the walk in the park itself. The gravel on the park walkway inside the park would most likely be an additional ADA violation, with the photograph condition having been in that condition for at least 2 years, probably closer to 3. These are all things that I have brought to the attention of representatives of the city and the city park board, and there has not been action by either. Considering these facts, I believe the city should focus on maintenance responsibilities. Typically, sidewalks are replaced in conjunction with curbing in a neighborhood, and at least in the instance of my neighborhood, this should be the procedure. Considering the ADA and city code violations that need to be corrected immediately. Also, the main street access from Oakwood Drive to the park into Fairmont Circle should be subject to snow removal in winter, just as the public is responsible for snow removal along sidewalks. Only on occasion has it been cleared, and that occurred when I called and complained. The last response I had from the street department was that the street was the responsibility of the park board. I kind of found it a little bit funny that the street department would not clear this access, even though I observed them clearing other entrances and parking areas of McClung Park. My home is now located in a historical district, as are the properties along Lafayette Street and Capitol Avenue. These areas have received new sidewalks, curbing, and even period-style lighting. My question is, who paid for those improvements when many of those properties are or were under condemnation by the city? My guess is the citizens of Jefferson City and not the individual property owners. In conclusion, I believe that before the city tries to make new and enforce new regulations, the city should look in its own backyard and maintain what they're responsible for. The aforementioned items are all within view of my home, and I am sure that there are other homes, neighborhoods that have similar situations. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stroop? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stroop, and maybe staff could connect with Mr. Stroop, Mr. Sanders, maybe at some point. His phone number's on here. If you all could connect about some of the questions about the sidewalks in here. Or would that be Mr. Morash? I'm sorry. Mr. Morash. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Item 2, Mr. Roger Schwartz, to speak about Bill 2019-40. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Roger Schwartz, and I live at 515 Eastland Drive. I'm here this evening, too, to speak in opposition to the sidewalk bill, 2019-40. And the issue is that the bill requires the property owner to maintain the sidewalks to within a quarter of an inch. Well, I brought my handy-dandy number 2 pencil along, which happens to be exactly a quarter of an inch thick, if you've ever measured one. So I took my pencil, and I actually submitted a picture. I don't know if we can call that up or not, but I took my pencil and my straight edge, and I walked up and down Eastland Drive just to check to see how many property owners would be in violation of this 1/4 inch ordinance. How many do you think are in violation? All of them. There wasn't a property owner that had a joint that didn't pass this, and I just laid the straight edge down and slide the pencil underneath. If it slides underneath, it doesn't touch, it's in violation. In fact, I came early enough tonight to check the sidewalk right outside of City Hall. Well, I found 2 joints up here next to the police department also that would not comply with the 1/4 inch. So my guess is that every sidewalk in the city that's more than 10 years old is going to have joints that fail this test. So it doesn't seem like a reasonable thing to do for the city to require the citizens to maintain a sidewalk to this standard. The sidewalk on Eastland Drive, I would say, is in reasonably good condition. I mean, I walk it all the time, and I certainly don't have any trouble tripping over joints because they aren't off very much, but everybody's got some that are off a little bit. Here's the other issue is you're requiring the property owner to maintain. What neighbor goes and builds something over here on their property and then goes next door and tells their neighbor, you're going to have to maintain this to a very high standard? Well, the neighbor would laugh at him. But that's what this ordinance really does to the citizens of Jefferson City, because in the case of Eastland Drive, the city built the sidewalk on city right-of-way with city funds, and now you're turning around and you're asking the property owners to maintain it. In the past, the city has maintained sidewalks. They've let contracts to fix and repair sidewalks. So it would seem appropriate that we would continue to do that and you not ask the citizens to maintain the sidewalks at such a high standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Any questions? Okay. Councilman Mahalovich?
I'd like the staff to address the, how the city builds and maintains sidewalks, because some of that's not my understanding. Now, I know on occasions, like Apple Avenue, we invested in that avenue, and there was city and county dollars into that, but that doesn't occur in all cases. I know in certain cases we used certain grant funds. Would you want to elaborate on how we build sidewalks and how we maintain them?
Yeah, I mean, it runs the gamut, obviously, but basically, the ordinance hasn't changed in many years, and it's a similar ordinance across the nation and other cities and counties where I've worked, is that property owners are made to maintain the sidewalk, no matter who constructs them. So typically in a single-family subdivision, you know, we have a sidewalk ordinance. There's a sidewalk to be built at least on one side of the street, and those typically built with the home, so that would be on an individual basis, and they all link together and create a walkway. Of course, city projects, whenever we build a street, sidewalk and pedestrian transportation is integral to that. We build those with street projects. We do a lot of grant-funded projects. We're working on one right now over on Missouri Boulevard, so we have a component of the sales tax that's labeled sidewalks. And Roger is correct, or the previous person is correct, that we typically do go out and we have done sidewalk maintenance projects, and that goes back many years now, and I'll give Councilman Jim Penfold some credit for that back, and this goes back many years. We did a big project to look at sidewalks and determine how many defects were citywide and what we should do about them. And at the time, the council indicated, okay, or once we got the study done, we tried to classify all the defects, and we did the whole city. So the problem's probably over $1.5 million fix to fix all the sidewalks in town. And some of those could be shaved off or ground off. Some of them had to be panel replacements, things like that. At the time, the council elected that the city would use part of its sales tax funds to go out and repair sidewalks instead of trying to create a new program, hire more people, inspect, and do all these things and have the property owners pay. And so, and that's the process we're still doing today. And that occurs, so many dollars every 5 years. So the other process of sidewalks is the ordinance process that we're talking about. So that's long been in place. And the only thing is the standard is changing. So what happens if someone calls and complains about a sidewalk or a particular location? We would send an inspector out, and right now we go out and measure and see if it's 1.5 inches offset. And if it is, we go ahead and initiate a letter to that property owner. We don't proactively go out and search these out, but it's on a complaint basis. So we get about maybe 10 complaints a year from whomever, but we go look at those and send those folks a letter. And that's kind of handled through code enforcement or a property maintenance issue, much like anything else that's a property maintenance issue we deal with. And a lot of times we get good compliance with that. What will change is the depth. The 1.5 inches goes down to 1/4, which the 1/4 is mirroring American Disabilities Act. It says, anything 1/4 inch offset you should take care of. So that's the change. We're trying to mirror that. So if we go out now today and our inspector goes, okay, that one's 1 inch, well, no letter is generated, even though obviously I think most of us would agree that 1 inch is probably a little on the high side. And I personally agree, 1/4 inch is a very slight offset. However, the federal rule dictates otherwise, and so we're trying to mirror that to that rule. And so, I'm answering your question. I'm trying to be thorough. And so and then also on we get sued a few times a year on this as well, and typically lose, but we do try to. That's another reason we might generate a letter to a property owner. But when people sue others, they often sue the city as well.
One small follow-up. And we used community block grant monies, I think, in times.
And we have through, we work with community, the administrator, Jamie's here. We search out projects in certain areas to expend funds on sidewalk projects, sometimes new, sometimes repair, just depending on what might be a good project for the year.
It seems like there was a program, Safe Schools, and...
Yeah, where you could apply for funds, we would use those. We try to, that's why in the sales tax, I believe this last 5 years, it's $400,000 over 5 years for sidewalks, if I remember correctly. And what we try to do is to do about half of that on repairs and about half of it on grant matching and new sidewalks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Shirley Shalari.
Yes, these gentlemen have already addressed the issue that I would just be repeating what they said.
Okay, and for those without the mic, that basically she's just reiterating what the other gentlemen have already said. Thank you. The next we have Mr. Danny Vogt. And looks like Mr. Danny and Benita.
Yes.
Welcome.
My name's Danny Vaught.
I'm Benita Vaught, and I'll just start the discussion a little bit here. I would just like to bring to council's attention that in 2016, the community that we live in, which is known as, or sometimes called Old South Side, went through a study that was conducted by the Capital Region Medical Center, and in that study, they pointed out that the median household income in the neighborhood is about $30,000, and the street conditions are fair to poor. Walkability is poor, with many missing, interrupted, and uneven sidewalks. It is an old neighborhood many of the sidewalks, in fact, probably all of them, except for the new one right there by the park in our neighborhood that the city put in, would probably fail this measure. I would also like to point out that this neighborhood was recently hit by the tornado. So not only are we an old neighborhood with most sidewalks not passing this, we are also now been hit with additional issues with tree roots uprooting sidewalks. We have residents in our neighborhood who are going to have to replace panels for that reason as well. And so I would urge the council just to consider that passing something like this now is an undue burden onto the citizens of some of your neighborhoods already. If it's something that you need for another tool in your enforcement, your code enforcement box, which of course we get behind you on that, and if you want to use that tool for the abandoned properties and for the negligent landlords in our neighborhoods, we're for that. But if you're going to use this tool against the homeowners that are just trying to make a house payment and own a home in our neighborhood, we would urge you to use some caution about this particular type of measurement.
The only thing I have to add to that is the city really does need to take in consideration the people of the south side did get hit the tornado. Many of them have a hard time even make their deductible to repair their house. And now this news article that came out has got them in an uproar that it says that the code enforcement is going to spike. Not realizing that the new sidewalk, how much is the new sidewalk? You're looking at 50 feet. That's about anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, depending on how bad a sidewalk is. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. So you're talking about telling these people on the south side whose median income, again, is $30,000, have a hard enough time to recover from this tornado, and you're going to tell them that you're wanting to implement this ordinance to penalize them again. That's what they're feeling like, being penalized a second time. So I think I urge this council to reconsider.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. And when we get in the discussion phase, Mr. Marash, maybe you can address how it would be implemented, and so that it would clear any confusion of whether people would be asked to do this, or how you mentioned the process and the issues and complaint driven, and it wouldn't be necessarily, I think there could be some confusion about how it would be implemented. Item 6, we have Mr. Matt Coley. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. My name is Matt Coley. I'm here on behalf of Socket Telecom. For those that don't know, Socket Telecom is an internet service provider and telecommunications provider. We're currently constructing a fiber optic network in Jefferson City, and I'm here in opposition to city ordinance, or proposed ordinance 09040, and specifically section 32-99 pertaining to any work, including work done by a utility that affects a sidewalk, and the requirement to upgrade that sidewalk to be ADA compliant when we're restoring it. This will increase Socket's cost of installation and construction of its network, therefore making it harder for Socket to meet the demand for its broadband services, of which we've had citizens and businesses asking us to provide service. It will also increase our costs and making it harder to compete. When we do construction, we fully expect to restore that sidewalk to the standard it was in when we began construction. So that's not the issue. The issue is that we're being asked to upgrade that sidewalk or curb to be ADA compliant. And we've not seen that in any other municipality or jurisdiction where we've had to build facilities. So we recently encountered this, the impact of this over at Wallway and Jefferson Avenue, where we installed facilities. We weren't aware they were going to be asked to upgrade that to be ADA compliant, so we restored the network, or the curb to be compliant with what its standard was, and then later learned that we had to upgrade it. And so we had to tear out that network, tear out that curb, make it ADA compliant, and so the estimate of that was $8,500. Of that, $3,500 was going to be paid to our direct competitor, CenturyLink, who we had to move their vault as a result of expanding the reconstruction of that and move their network. So we're paying our direct competitor to now bring their stuff into compliance with the ADA standards. This example also shows that the impact of this is not going to be applied equally. We're putting the network in the ground now, being asked to do this. CenturyLink and Mediacom already have their networks in the ground, so they're not going to be affected by this, even if it is applied equally. And even if applied equally, it doesn't affect all companies equally. Some of the other companies that are affected are going to be either owned by the city or they're going to be monopolies like Ameren that don't have competitors or not going to be asked to upgrade their competitors' networks. And lastly, I would say again that we've never encountered this requirement to upgrade curbs and sidewalks to be ADA compliant in any other market. We've installed fiber optic networks in over 25 markets, and we've never seen this. And I guess lastly, I'd point out that when you look at the bill summary, the fiscal impact of this is listed as unknown. So I'd urge you to be careful in passing bills when the fiscal impact is unknown on what it's going to do. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Mr. Marash?
I could maybe hit that one since we're right here talking about it, but besides the offset requirement, we've also tried to update the portion that he is discussing about the need to upgrade when you alter a sidewalk or a street next to one, and so to put that in the code. Right now that's been handled, been here at the city now 17 years. We've implemented that through a right-of-way permit process and under the authority given to the Public Works Director to do that when you excavate in the city right-of-way. And so we believe it has been applied fairly and to other companies that do similar work or as they go about doing their projects. And like I said, this is just trying to codify that to give another maybe level of expectation that it be done. I wouldn't, even if this weren't to pass, we would still be implementing the right-of-way permit process in the same manner unless the council specifically directed us not to. It does comply with our ADA code. We've talked to our counselor about that, Ryan Molman, about that. And I'm surprised other cities don't do this, and cities and counties I've worked in, they do this. And it would shock me that they didn't. But I can't tell you what they do exactly. Is that any questions about that? So there's a couple parts to this where we were in there changing the ordinance, so we want, and this came up at the same time, so we wanted to make sure that it was very clear in the code as well.
Further questions? Councilman Mahalovich?
Let me get this clear. So the property in question, specifically Jefferson, Wallway, whatever, that sidewalk was not in compliance.
The ramps were not in compliance, and then there's also some deterioration there that they increased while they did their work. And so this code also indicates that you through the right-of-way permit process, we already required this, but that you have to put it back in a like manner once you're done as well. And just generally in the sidewalk, whether it be aggregate, exposed aggregate or whatever what surrounds it.
It seems to me that if you ever were if you had a situation where you didn't have ADA ramps or on a corner especially, that you'd require them to be put there. So
if anybody is, altering those, including the city, when we do a major overlay of a street, we'll go in and put in compliant ramps. Any of our utilities, like wastewater, if they're altering near a sidewalk, they also have to upgrade. And like I said, other utility companies do this for the city already, and this is the first pushback we've had on it.
Okay, that concludes presentations from the gallery, so we'll be taking up that bill shortly. Item 11, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, bills introduced 2019-45.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $60,000 time and material agreement with Durkin Equipment Company for sensory control and data acquisition and programmable logic controller programming, maintenance, and upgrade.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. As the clerk indicated, it's basically a maintenance contract with Dirk and Company. It's to work on our SCADA system, which basically allows our wastewater systems to talk to each other and also talk to us remotely for pump stations and various things. System's an old system, and we're actually looking at, how can we upgrade this and fully replace it, but this will get us by until we get that project going.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Item 2019-46.
An ordinance amending Section 8-13 subsection A, overtime and compensatory time of the Personnel Policy Manual.
Mrs. Strope?
Thank you. So this ordinance amends the Personnel Policy Manual for compensation for exempt employees during a state of emergency. So normally exempt employees are not compensated for hours worked in excess of 40 hours in a week. But this change would allow the exempt employees who are required to work in the event of a presidential declared state of emergency and while the Emergency Operations Center is activated and staffed to be compensated with either straight time or compensatory time at their equivalent hourly pay for hours worked over 40 in the week. This was brought to light after the tornado on May 22nd. We had 44 of our 88 exempt employees record time spent on the tornado. We believe we had 30 employees work over 40 hours the week of the tornado, resulting in a rough guesstimate of cost of about $33,000 in salary and benefits had this policy been in effect at that time. Also, having this policy in writing, the city may be able to be reimbursed for this compensation by the federal or state emergency management agencies during those declared times. This did go to the administration committee last week, and they did forward it to the full council for your discussion and consideration. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilman Hesse?
The payment of the overtime to exempt employees would take place regardless of whether or not we receive funds from the state and/or federal government through emergency assistance?
It would. This policy would put that action into place, and it would be paid at the payroll in which that takes place. And then we would not know whether or not we would get reimbursement from FEMA or SEMA until a much later point in time.
Okay. And I guess the threshold is the presidential declaration of a state of emergency?
That and that the Emergency Operations Center is open, activated, and staffed.
So it's an and or though, as written, right? Or is it just is it an and?
It's an and. It should be.
Okay, it's an and. And then, so how many instances in recent memory have you had, or have we had, of this actually kicking in?
We really think that just May 22nd, prior to that would have been 93 or 95. The flooding, possibly. And again, that would only be if there was considerable amounts of overtime during a week.
All righty, thank you. I know it's not up for a vote until a couple of weeks. I guess I just initially have some concerns about, I mean, part of the nature of an exempt employee sometimes is the manner in which you do work extra hours. I know that it seems like it's only occurred maybe twice in the last 25 to 30 years. But still, I think that a lot of times, I guess the desire is to compensate folks in those positions, maybe higher or in a salaried role for the instances where overtime would be required. And without, my concern would be that in an emergency situation where maybe we did not get the reimbursement back, it could be a pretty large price tag for that time. Anyway, I'll think through it. I just have some initial reservations that I want to think about before we vote on it in a couple of weeks.
Councilman Graham?
So if this is something that we're going to take up in the next couple of weeks, is it something that would be retroactive, or is it just moving forward?
This is only moving forward, so this would not be retroactive back to May.
Okay.
Let's see, I saw Mahalovich and then Fitzwater, or Councilman Fitzwater.
At the committee meeting, there was some discrepancy if we were going to go for straight time or time and a half. Obviously, there'd have to be a change in this. Are you comfortable with this language, or are we going to need to look at that if that motion comes up?
I think staff is comfortable with it, and I think that the administration committee was comfortable with it.
So leaving it at straight time?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Mahalovich?
It seems like some of the rationale given to consider this is the fact that it won't cost the city anything anyway because, or a large amount because we'd be getting reimbursed from FEMA, and yet that is really sort of an unknown as well, and the percentage of reimbursement's not 100%. So there'd be some real cost, and I certainly appreciate the work done by our staff. I think it was a great effort by everyone. But we also had, I want to recognize the fact that we had tons of volunteer time that was spent around the city, and I know that they too deserve our appreciation, but I just have a lot of I'd echo Councilman Hussey's concerns on this bill.
Do you have anything to add, Mrs. Strope, or?
I mean, not unless anybody has any questions, no.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Item 13, bills pending. We've taken up A and B, so we have 2019-38.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri regarding dangerous buildings as nuisances and their vacation, demolition, or repair and pertaining to insurance proceeds from damage or loss to buildings or structures.
Mr. Mullman?
Thank you. This bill amends our dangerous building code provisions. Currently, our dangerous building code is intimately tied in with our nuisance abatement code, and I've seen that as a problem, both kind of at a theoretical level, looking at the codes together, then getting into practice, applying the codes as well. I believe that the reason that it is a problem relates to how Missouri law treats nuisance abatement procedures and dangerous building procedures. They treat them separately, though nevertheless, despite the separate treatment under state law, current code provides similar procedures for these two different categories of property maintenance code enforcement. And so what this code does, it separates the dangerous building code from the nuisance code. That's probably the most striking thing that it does. The current bill is based on the Missouri Municipal League's model dangerous building code, which is in turn based on state statute regarding dangerous buildings. So this is a procedure that in presentation and in form is used throughout the state. Many cities use a dangerous building code that is based on the Missouri Municipal League's model dangerous code. I believe that it will give more certainty to those people that have to interact with the dangerous building code, and also provide additional certainty and direction to city staff who are responsible for administering the code. So for those reasons, staff has brought this forward and would like the City Council to consider passing it.
Any questions or deliberation? Roll call, please.
Graham?
Aye.
Hensley?
Aye.
Hussey?
Aye.
Kimna?
Aye.
Mahalovich?
Aye.
Prather?
Aye.
Schreiber?
Aye.
Ward? Wiseman?
Aye.
Fitzwater?
Aye.
Bill passes. And I did want to back up on 2019-46. Mrs. Strope, if you could find out, and you might have discussed it, I missed this portion at admin, but how other communities handle that, if this is something that is fairly common, and how they handle these kind of situations for the overtime piece. So I thought about asking that at the next meeting, but you might need to check into that, so I'll just throw that out there.
We did get sample policy language from some other organizations, so
Okay.
if you guys want to see that?
Maybe you
or-
could share that, if that would be okay, and before the next meeting?
Sure.
I would just be curious to see where we fall within that. Okay, thank you. 2019-39.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to modify an agreement with the Jefferson City Firefighters Local 671, commonly known as the Work Agreement.
Chief Grace? I'm sorry, Bowden.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's, as it reads, it's a change of our current work schedule to the 4896. Entertain questions if you've got them.
We went over it fairly extensively at the last meeting, so are there any other questions of council? Okay, and I apologize,
No, you're
Chief
fine.
Bowden. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2019-40.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 32, Streets and Sidewalks, revising the duties and responsibilities of property owners regarding sidewalks.
Mr. Marash.
Thank you. And I'll hit the highlights again that we just discussed, but basically, this ordinance wouldn't change our enforcement type or mechanism. It'd still be a complaint-driven type situation. Basically, all it does, a few things here, is one, it changes the offset when we do notify a property owner. We receive a complaint, notify the property owner once we inspect it. If it's less than more than a quarter of an inch offset, we ask they maintain that sidewalk. And, acceptable methods may be panel replacement. It could be grinding. Something as simple as a quarter of an inch might be able to be ground off up. And the ordinance actually calls up to an inch. You can grind. You can attempt to grind off the offset. It also clarifies the need to upgrade when utilities or other companies or even individuals are working in the right-of-way and hit certain curb ramps, that they must be upgraded to ADA, and has become an issue that people have questions on as of late, or at least Socket has. We handle this typically through right-of-way permits and that type work, but I'm trying to see here. The issue of who maintains the sidewalk is unchanged. It's always been this way in the ordinance, that as long as I can recall, and it's not unlike many other places across the nation. I think it's comes from an APWA, American Public Works Association type standard on sidewalks. So you'll find this in other communities, and I certainly have where I've worked in other areas. But I'd be happy to answer any questions. Hopefully I hit the highlights.
Any questions for Mr. Marash? Councilman Hussey?
I want to go back to a comment you made earlier about lawsuits and the city at times being sued, or how exactly is the city defined as being party to one of these suits? Or what does that look like? Has it been a city sidewalk that we are responsible? Is it a...
Yeah, so on city streets, city rights-of-way, so that means essentially any street that's not state highway. Under Missouri law, the municipality is required to safely maintain those sidewalks. Under the doctrine of sovereign immunity, it generally says that cities are not responsible for injuries that occur on rights-of-way, except where the city has knowledge or should have knowledge of a dangerous condition. It is an exception to this doctrine of sovereign immunity. And so when someone sues the city for an injury that occurs, allegedly because of a dangerous condition of the city, they have to prove A, that they were injured because of that dangerous condition, and B, that the city knew or should have known about the dangerous condition. And so that is why people sue us. They sue us because the state law says that the city is responsible for maintaining the sidewalks, and they believe that they can prove in some way that the city knew or should have known about the offset or the separation or whatever the alleged dangerous condition is. And so that is how we find ourselves in these lawsuits.
And so my follow-up would be, is a displacement in the sidewalk of greater than a quarter inch then considered a dangerous condition if we adopt this ordinance?
I don't think so. I don't think that dangerous condition is going to be something that will be found as a matter of fact, not as a matter of law in any type of lawsuit. And so I I don't think that by changing the standard for essentially repair of a sidewalk, we are admitting in any way that that an offset of, say, 3/8 of an inch is a dangerous condition. And so I don't think this is really going to change a whole lot of how we defend these lawsuits. What is going to change is when there is instances where we become knowledgeable of deficiencies in the sidewalk. This will give us a additional tool to address those deficiencies, so that way someone in the future won't possibly get hurt and subject the city to lawsuit.
And I know a couple, thank you, concerns that have been expressed to me are, to go in that same line of thinking, is just that there are a number of places across the community that the displacement would be greater than a 1/4 inch, and for fear that now the city is aware of them, and if no action is taken, are we opening ourselves up to potential litigation for failure to deal with a situation? I know one concern that's been expressed is regarding code enforcement and the ability to actually keep up. I think as a previous Mr. Schwartz presented, that 1/4 inch displacement you can find all over the community, and does this create a situation where we are flooded with complaints or folks that are dissatisfied, and do we even have the ability, if property owners do not rectify the situation, to even take care of it and then abate the property? You know, I guess from my seat, it seems like that a 1/4 inch feels pretty small, like the width of a pencil, and it's opened up a larger conversation about sidewalks in the community, the state of conditions and repairs, who has them, who doesn't, how does the city go about constructing them. I think that the media attention received or given to this bill has opened some eyes for folks that actually did not realize they had some responsibility for the sidewalk in front of their property. And I know that's been of concern, and you know, I think clarified tonight that responsibility already exists, that the bill as written doesn't actually add to it, that they already have a responsibility to maintain that sidewalk and improvement if required. I think of the bill in 3 parts, right? It's the 1/4 inch. I know that we talked about the panel replacement, the aesthetic piece of it. And I think at Public Works, you provided an example of an instance where there was a half panel or a portion, Matt, that was replaced that did not really match the nature of the sidewalk, and so therefore you kind of had an aesthetic issue in a sidewalk that was nicely done. And then I think that the utility ADA piece here, that we already deal with right-of-way permits, and we're just trying to codify. The aesthetic piece, I think, makes a lot of sense. I guess I'm kind of hung up on the 1/4 inch as being really a threshold, a standard to go to, from where I sit. And so if I'm clear, the bill as presented does not alter really in any way our process on enforcing these, that it's complaint driven, that right now if somebody goes out and that sidewalk is greater than 1.5 inch displaced, we would issue a letter to the property owner, seek remedy, and if none is given, we'd work through that and potentially maybe have to pursue the city doing it itself and abating the property. So this bill wouldn't change that process, correct?
Correct.
Really, it's just the shift to the 1/4 inch. So I'm interested in conversation. If people want to dialogue tonight, I get the sense from my conversations with my colleagues that maybe the 1/4 inch is a bit too far, and that maybe it makes sense to look to modify some language in the bill to keep in place the aesthetic piece. That I just say aesthetic piece, I know it's defined a little differently, to look at the ADA language just to make sure that's how we'd like it to be, and potentially take out that shift of the displacement from 1.5 to a 1/4 inch. I'd be curious to hear from my colleagues if there's interest in that, and if so, I'd be happy to place it on the informal, and we can work on it and delay it for a future council meeting to continue conversation. With that, I'll be quiet.
Councilman Fitzwater?
I appreciate your comments. Mine are basically comments. I think we've heard from a number of members of the public both tonight and, I'm sure we have all gotten emails, telephone calls. I think it's our responsibility to do what's right for the city, and I appreciate the staff bringing these things to our attention because there are things that we need to address. But our community has gone through two tremendous catastrophic events. And we've got a lot going on. We've got a staff that's stretched to add additional potential workload. I don't see a hue and cry from the public saying this is a critical issue that needs to be addressed, although, I get it. We need to somehow figure out how we address that, but I'm not comfortable supporting it tonight. So I would ask if you would consider putting it on the informal. I would support that. Give us a little time to tweak with it. Maybe next time it comes up, I may or may not support it then, but tonight, I think there's just enough, and I just don't think the optics of it are right for our community right now. We've got time to work on it, and I think, if you're comfortable with doing that, maybe we do send it back, and you bring back something that we can all live with, but, there's 9 other council members that can weigh in on it, but that's where I sit on it.
Councilman Schreiber?
When we met at Public Works, we voted to pass this on to the full council for the very reason that Councilman Fitzwater and Councilman Huss this evening. That just makes it more plain to me that we do need to have additional discussion, so therefore I would like to see us go in that direction and delay it at this time. I would not vote for it this evening in favor of it.
Councilman Mahalovich?
Yeah, I think I agree and concur. Second Ward have a lot of your older neighborhoods, and this is especially meaningful to me that we have residents from the Second Ward here that see this as an issue right in their neighborhood, and having to deal with the other issues that we have in that area. I think this is good to have further discussion, and I'd support I won't object to you putting it on the informal.
So if it goes on the informal, and what would be the best method, Mr. Marash, to get some of these questions hashed out in the more discussion of council? What's your suggestion?
In my opinion, it seems like the main obstacle is the offset dimension, not necessarily all the other stuff. I could go forward without the offset dimension tonight. It's basically striking a sentence out of what's in the bill. Or you could delay the whole thing. This was hotly debated many years ago when we did the whole survey of sidewalks, and the council at that time left it at 1.5 inches. So you can imagine if we get a complaint, sidewalks, 1.25 inches off, we go out and measure it, we do nothing. So we don't notify the owner because it meets the current code, even though it's obviously probably a trip hazard at most. And so maybe there's a different dimension that needs to be there, certainly. The only one we could readily find, to compare to is our ADA type requirement, and so that's why it was recommended that way. So
why is the ADA so small?
I can't address that personally. I don't know how they arrived at it, but obviously, if you do find just a slight corner off by 1/4 of an inch, you can trip on it, and people with mobility issues sometimes can't pick their feet up. It could be, I got one the other day from somebody in a wheelchair, and there was one corner off on a radius that was about 1/4 of an inch, and this individual complained that he felt like he was going to fall out in the street when he went over it. And so there are issues that people have. I have young children. It seems when they're running up and down anywhere, any little thing will trip them, and certainly some of the pictures I've seen, of those, that would trigger that. But again, that was the most identifiable standard. It's probably all across the board of what communities have, but it could be something different, certainly. We still have 1.5 inches. If this doesn't pass, we still have 1.5 inches.
Councilman Hussey?
I guess I have a follow-up. And I figured this was the case. You go out and measure, and it's 1 1/4, not greater than 1 1/2, and we take no action. Has there ever been consideration given to still notify the property owner in a clear way to say, look, this is not in violation, but we did come out and measure, and this is the displacement, here are some ways that you could correct that, or should you choose to do so. Because usually I think the displacement gets worse over time. If it's a tree root buckling up a panel or something like that, today it's 1 1/4, and a year it could be 1 3/4. Have we thought about being proactive? Because I would guess that maybe some property owners would be then responsive and seek to address the issue or something.
We haven't done that. If it's within the code standard, of course, we're not looking for any additional work either, but I got to be honest, but really this happens many times. It's the property owners will call us, say, hey, that my sidewalk's offset in front of my house, when you come in and fixing it, and we're saying, well, actually, you're responsible. We explain that issue, and I said, if we receive a complaint, we'll send you a letter to fix it, and they go, okay, I don't want to talk to you anymore, and hang up and go on about their business. And I should say, many property owners probably do go out, and I've seen them do it, fixing their sidewalks, and are very particular about their property, and had another one over by the school just this year in the tornado damaged area, and that gentleman had contacted us, and I believe he went out and fixed his sidewalk because he was concerned about it. It was a very small offset, but once he found out he was supposed to do it, he went ahead and did it. So I mean, you run the gamut just like you meet anybody. Some people are willing to do things, others aren't.
Well, as a property owner that replaced my own 4 years ago, I can speak that it's not cheap. 600 square feet of concrete is not inexpensive. I like sidewalks. I appreciate sidewalks. I think they do great things for the community. I guess I trust that it might be a minor change in the bill, and it might take care of concerns and get us something workable. I still would prefer, I guess, to put it on the informal. Let's work out those changes and not try to modify the ordinance on the fly tonight. And
I would suggest perhaps coming back and, go to another public works meeting and discuss it again if you'd like or not.
I think if it's if it's the displacement being taken out, and we look at just the other language, and if there's still comfort around that language, I think we could bring it back in a couple weeks' time. But I'd rather not try to do that on the fly tonight in case we miss something, or sometimes we struggle when 10 of us try to craft language here all at once. So I guess, Madam Mayor, I'm asking to place this bill on the informal calendar for tonight, and so what that means for the public is that it could be debated again in 2 weeks' time, and if no action were taken in the next 3 meetings, it would die.
Okay. Councilman, or Mr. Molman?
Is there any specific instruction to bring back this bill as bifurcated as 2 bills? A Bill 2019-40A and 40B, where we address the offset and then the rebuild stuff separately.
Sure. Or I could visit with you after the meeting to talk about.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, and I know a couple things that, and I don't see any objections to placing that on the informal after that request, that came up tonight with the speakers that, well, for one, that the responsibility hasn't shifted or changed from this. So property owners' responsibilities, who's responsible for the sidewalk, there's no change to that before or after this.
Correct.
So just want to clarify that. And then also that the city wouldn't be going out and saying everybody needs to build new sidewalks. We aren't currently doing that either. I think there's some confusion that suddenly they would be asked to put a new sidewalk in.
Like I said, we get about 10 complaints a year on average, let's say, and that's generates about 10 letters a year is all, maybe less. We don't anticipate, if the standard change, unless you're watching this meeting or reading the newspaper, you may not even know it. So I don't see, I could be wrong, but I don't see the complaints shifting to a great deal just because the standard change, somebody coming back to us. I don't think most of the time people call us, they don't understand what the standard is anyway. They just know it's a trip hazard. You know it when you see it type thing. So whatever dimension you put in there, I'm sure that people are tripping over a sidewalk, they'll continue to call us, whether it's a 1/2 inch or an inch or still remains an 1.5 inches. We'll get the same amount of calls, I suspect.
Okay, thank you. So that's on the informal 2019-40. So 2019-41.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri approving a second amendment to the intergovernmental cooperation agreement by and between the City of Jefferson, Missouri and Stone Ridge Transportation Development District.
Mr. Molman?
Thank you. This ordinance would amend a intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the city and Stone Ridge TDD. Stone Ridge TDD is a transportation development district that is over at the Stone Ridge, off Stone Ridge Parkway and Hard Rock Drive, generally is where it's located, south of Missouri Boulevard. The second amendment to the intergovernmental cooperation agreement would add a description of the additional projects approved by the property owners in 2013 and which were actually installed. It would add those projects to the scope of district projects defined in Exhibit C to the cooperation agreement. The way I like to think about it is amending the agreement between the TDD and the city to reflect reality, what was actually installed. The TDD has sent a representative, Mr. Bergen from the Posinelli Law Firm, represents the TDD in this matter. He'd be available to answer any specific questions that you may have that would be appropriate for the TDD or the developer. But if there's any other questions, either myself or Mr. Bergen should be able to help out.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Mahalovich?
Is there any required reporting of the TDD to the city council with regard to the progress on those projects?
That is a great question. I would have to look into whether or not there's anything in the TDD Act that is required. There's certain annual reporting to the state auditor that TDDs are required to do that we would be privy to, but I'm not sure that there are direct reports to the city council. TDDs are largely independent. They are really kind of unlike CIDs, which state statute contemplates a pretty close relationship between the city and the CID. TDDs are more independent. They are administered by the courts. But I'd have to do some research and figure that out. Now, the projects themselves, they're done. They've been built. They were completed back in 2013, 2014, I believe. This is amending the agreement to reflect that those projects were actually built.
Any other questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Bill passes, and thank you for being here, too. 2019-42.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic by modifying parking restrictions on West Main Street east of Jordan Street.
Mr. Morash?
Thank you. As clerk indicated, modify some parking restrictions in the code. Basically, the staff noticed this when they're reviewing the code, and we're just trying to match field conditions.
Any questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2019-43.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic by modifying Jefferson City Public School-related information to coincide with changes at Jefferson City Public School.
Mr. Morash?
Thank you. Again, kind of a staff cleanup. When the new high school was coming online, we were reviewing the code and how to insert that, and then, of course, noticed some things where some of the times are off, or if the school district modifies the time, it's specifically listed in the code. So we're trying to make that more generic to reference when the school hours are actually in session, and they can modify at their will, and we won't have to go back and modify our code in the future is the hope to keep up.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2019-44.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Meyer Electric Company in the amount of $79,512 for the light replacement tornado damage project.
Mr. Moresh.
Thank you, and the title was pretty right spot on, but about an $80,000 contract with Meyer Electric. We hope to get some reimbursement on this contract if that comes to pass, but basically fix some street lights, pedestrian crossing light that was taken out over by employment security, some electrical issues that had come up.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward. Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna. Mahalovich.
Aye.
Bill passes. Nothing on the informal. Item 15, resolutions, RS 2019-7.
A resolution authorizing the City of Jefferson to apply for the buses and bus facilities section 5339 grant.
Mr. Moresh.
Thank you. There's a list of projects that we talked with our Public Works and Planning Committee about, I guess last week or the week prior, whenever the last meeting was. Anyway, there's some funds that is available to the city, administered by MoDOT for bus facilities, and just to give you an idea, we've listed them out. Work on our bus wash facility, replace the overhead doors on our bus barns, upgrade some paratransit software, fare card system replacement, which is how you pay the fare when you get on the bus, security systems in both the facilities and on the buses, and some heaters in the bus barns. Those funds have to be used for bus facilities, and then we would match that with half-cent CIP funds that are allotted for transit matching.
Any questions, and do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any further discussion? Councilman Fitzwater?
I was just going to make a comment. There were questions at Public Works. I thought staff did a great job of responding. The biggest question being, where do the matching funds come from? Knowing we're in a tough budget cycle, and they did a great job of working us through that, so thank you.
Great. Any further deliberation? Roll call, please.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Resolution passes. 2019-8.
A resolution authorizing United Healthcare and Sun Life Assurance Company to provide group health insurance.
Ms. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Each year, with the assistance of Wall Street Insurance, staff reviews our group health insurance plan options. The recommendation from Wall Street Insurance is to renew our current self-insured plan with United Healthcare and Sun Life Assurance Company. The health insurance plan includes 3 options for employees to choose between with varying premiums and cost-share benefits. The only benefit change will be an IRS-required increase to the deductible on the HSA plan from $2,400 to $2,800 for individuals and $5,400 to $5,600 for families. No other deductibles, co-pays, or cost shares will change. The wellness incentive will remain the same. The renewal with Sun Life will increase by 36% with an increase on the per-person retention from $100,000 to $125,000. This results in an increased annual cost of approximately $253,000. United Healthcare is lowering their administrative charge, which will result in a savings of approximately $20,700. Funding in the mayor's approved FY20 budget includes an increase of 1.9%. If this is passed, the premiums, including the employees' portion, will increase by 1.9%. There is currently approximately $800,000 in the self-insurance fund, the purpose of which is to stabilize premiums from year to year. This fund may be needed to pay claims depending upon the actual claims cost in in 2020. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna. Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Resolution passes. 2019-9.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute developer performance agreements relating to redevelopment proposals for the Missouri State Penitentiary redevelopment area.
Mr. Molman.
Thank you. This resolution is part of the master developer process for selection of a master developer for the MSP, Missouri State Penitentiary redevelopment area. The Missouri State Penitentiary Community Partners, also known as the MSPCP, has made a recommendation that the City Council execute these developer performance agreements with 4 development teams. Those development teams, the first one is Americo Life, Burns and McDonnell, and Kit Bond Strategy. The second one is calling themselves Jefferson City Vision Partners, made of the firms of Obascron Huarte Lane SA, Development Strategies, Killian Construction Company, CFS Engineers, FS Architecture, H Design Group, and Hoher Schaut. The third group is Chesterfield Hotels, Arcturus, Peckham Architecture, and Central Missouri Professional Services. The last group is F&F Development, LLC. This group, or this resolution, provides for the approval of a developer performance agreement, which in itself provides that in exchange for a $10,000 stipend to each of these groups, a candidate developer will submit a detailed redevelopment proposal for the MSP redevelopment area that addresses each of the items set forth in the agreement. The agreement has a series of items that, in order for a redevelopment proposal to be deemed to be responsive to the request for development proposals, each one of those has to be addressed. Highlights of the developer performance agreement, the items that we are asking the developers to address includes whether or not the proposal includes a convention conference center and meets certain space thresholds which were recommended by the MSPCP. It asks them to identify their plans for integrating the gas chamber into the development and provide a description of any challenges for such integration. It asks them to identify whether or not their plan calls for reuse or demolition of the building known as the old shoe factory. And it asks the developers to state their interest and ability to take on additional project areas which are adjacent to the MSP redevelopment area if the state were ever to open such areas for redevelopment. The agreement does provide that the city is committing to keep proposals confidential until final selection consistent with the Sunshine Law, but also provides that developers may be requested to make a public presentation prior to final selection. I will also address a substitute that I believe was distributed last week on Friday. And if anyone does not have, I see that it was distributed last week through the online system but did not make it into your iPad packet. So if anyone needs a copy, I have them here. The substitute does 2 things. It amends the developer performance agreement in the first way in paragraph 1. It changes the due date for redevelopment proposals from November 1st, 2019 to December 1st, 2019. This was changed in talking with the city's Special Economic Redevelopment Council and also with the State of Missouri Office of Administration. Particularly, Special Economic Development Council thought that the November 1st date may be cutting it too close to get the type of detail presentations and redevelopment proposals that we would like to see for the MSP group. So we thought adding the extra month would give them extra time to make sure that there's no reason for them to be rushed and that they are providing to the city a quality redevelopment proposal that we can evaluate fully and thoroughly. The second change included in the proposed substitute is to section 2, sub C. Section 2, sub C, by adding a subparagraph 4, that is lowercase Roman numeral 4, and it adds a provision asking redevelopment teams to provide details regarding hotel facilities to be attached or associated with the conference/convention facilities, including proposed room totals, amenities, and features. So this adds additional details in when developers respond on whether or not they are including a provision for a conference/convention center, that if they are doing so, that they also provide details on proposed hotel amenities to go along with that. So these two changes are contained in the substitute, and I'd be happy to address anything in the agreement itself or in the substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Molman. Is there a motion to amend RS 2019-9?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So we'll take up RS 2019-9 as amended. Is there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Resolution passes. And also, thank you, Diane Gillespie. I forgot to mention earlier that you were here this evening as well, in case the council had any questions about that. So thank you. Item 16, presentations from the gallery on other topics. We have nobody signed up this evening. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Item 17, council and staff discussions of presentation topics. Item 18, approval of 8/5/2019 closed session minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 19, new business. I do have one item. I have a tax bill that I issued, and I would like to ask council to consider rescinding the tax bill. Rescinding isn't the proper word. I've forgotten the word.
Release.
Release the tax bill. So this tax bill was for West Apartments. I've dealt with them in the 4th Ward for many years, of other property owners in the area that have caused some repeated violations. This particular apartment complex has a dumpster that's easiest proximity is their dumpster. It tends to get a lot of illegal dumping. So he had reached out to me and the city about the illegal dumping in his area, and I brought it to the city's attention, and then this particular apartment ended up getting a tax bill along with his neighbors. So he has provided a copy of his service from Allied or Republic Services that shows a non-scheduled pickup service for June 20th. The city did the work on June 24th, so we did talk to him about talking to Allied to show that even though it shows that he did pay for service on the 20th, that the city still performed the work, meaning the items were still out there. So not exactly sure why it wasn't initially picked up. He did pay for it to be picked up, but he's also paying the city the tax bill. So he's made a very good faith effort over the years to try to clean up the neighborhood and try to discourage illegal dumping and other issues. We've met with him in my office along with city staff and Mr. Sanders and Mr. Kroll, trying to come up with some ideas and solutions, but it is a continued challenge. So I've signed a lot of tax bills. I've never asked for one to be released, but I would like to ask if council would be interested in making a motion to release this tax bill 17-021.
Madam Mayor,
Councilman Graham?
based on the time frame in which that citation was issued, I will make that motion to release, what's the
Release
official?
tax bill 17-021.
Release tax bill 17-021 under those circumstances.
Okay, I'll say that too. Okay, we have a motion and second, and just to clarify too, this is not a staff error, so we want to make sure.
Absolutely. I know it was the timing with the pickup with Allied Waste, and I'm sure, I don't know if it was picked up or was not picked up, or we don't know, but he did pay for the bill, so, yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 19A, we'll go into closed session. Mrs. Donaldson, would you read the resolution?
Pursuant to Section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri, the chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss the following: legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representative and its attorney. And number 2, leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate by a public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration therefore.
Is there a motion to approve? Wait a minute. Yeah, roll call, please, right? I know it's been a long night. Am I doing this right? Yeah, roll call, please.
Graham?
Aye.
Hensley?
Aye.
Hussey?
Aye.
Kimna?
Aye.
Mahalovich? Prather?
Aye.
Schreiber? Ward? Wiseman? Fitzwater?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We are in closed session.